The Abu Garcia Max X Easy Cast promises to eliminate backlashes. So over the last month, I've been putting that to the test. The problem with me testing it is I know how to use a baitcaster decently enough. So I recruited the help of my daughter, who's never fished with a baitcaster, to help put it to the test. And we both found some things that we like and don't like about it. So let's start with the pros. Number one is the price. Since this is designed and intended for beginners, it better be pretty cheap. And honestly, for the combo at like $70, I think that's a great price, especially considering that they have a unique design and some engineering that actually went into the design. So I'm super glad that Abu Garcia wasn't like, oh, we're gonna pass all this expense onto the consumer. And instead, they kept this rod and reel at a very reasonable $70. Another pro that I found while using it was that it can handle big fish. On the very first cast with this thing, I caught a 3-4 pounder out of my pond here. And it's probably the biggest fish in the pond, to be honest. And it handled it like a champ. The drag was decent on it, the reel cranking in the fish, no problem. And then on the very next cast, I had a super light bite from a crappie and ended up catching a crappie with it too. So even though it's a really inexpensive rod, it's still got a decent amount of sensitivity. Another thing that I really like about this reel, you can actually turn the anti-backlashing system on and off. So for complete beginners, you can turn it on, learn how a baitcaster works without so much of the worry of getting the professional overrun or the backlash or the bird's nest, whatever you want to call it. But as you get better and you learn how to use a baitcaster, you can switch that to off and increase your casting distance and practice with a normal baitcaster. Another benefit that I found for the Abu Garcia Max X Easy Cast is that it can handle a wide variety of lures. It's a 6-foot medium, probably moderate to fast. It doesn't actually say on the rod, but I've noticed that I can throw a wide variety of lures with it and it handles it just fine, which means that you can practice with more lures, learning how to throw a baitcaster. That way, when you step up to higher end baitcasters, higher end rods, you can have the confidence in knowing that I can throw this lure with a baitcaster. One tip that I'll always offer beginners is that heavier lures are easier to cast to a point. This rod is designed for 1/4 to 5/8 ounce lures. And today I'm throwing around a 1/2 ounce bladed jig and it casts like a dream. But when you go to cast lighter lures, that's when it's more difficult to cast. Like if I was to throw a crappie jig on here and try to cast it, it would be really frustrating. So when you're first starting out, go with a little bit heavier lures until you learn how to cast a baitcaster really well. And the last pro that actually matters, does it prevent backlashes? And I will say yes, with an asterisk. So in my fishing, it's drastically reduced the number of backlashes. So I don't even have to stop the spool with my thumb with the anti-backlashing system on because it does it for you. However, while my daughter was fishing with it, she managed to get some backlashes, which is exactly what I wanted to see is, could I hand this to her? Could I hand this to another little kid, have them cast and not even worry about it? And the answer is, to a point, yes. She didn't get too many backlashes, and when she did, they were super easy to fix. Nothing like what I get with a typical baitcaster, where I'm spending 10, 15 minutes sometimes digging out the line, trying to get that knot out. So yes, it works to a point. But that leads me to my cons. It doesn't completely eliminate them. Like I said, my daughter managed to get backlashes, and I think she was just trying to cast too hard is really what it was. Because I've noticed while I'm fishing with it, that if I have a nice, pretty easy cast, the anti-backlashing system doesn't really engage. And the rod and reel just cast better in general when I'm not trying to really muscle it and whip it really far. The other thing that I found most frustrating with it is how much the anti-backlashing system retracts from your cast. It drastically reduces your casting distance. At least it's reduced my casting distance. Now, again, when I cast it easier, it does seem to cast a little bit farther. I know that's kind of backwards in our thinking. We think that if we throw it harder, it's gonna go farther, but the anti-backlashing system kicks in faster and just stops your lure and drops it. Whereas if you cast it nice and easy, the lure flies farther and the spool spins smoother. But again, for beginners, it's going to drastically shorten your cast. The other con that I'm really worried about is the durability. Not necessarily of the reel. I've had a lot of Abu Garcia reels, from the super cheap ones to the more high-end ones, and I've never had a problem with the durability as far as the gears and all that stuff. I've broken a few of them, but that was after many years of use. However, I've never had one with this fancy little thing right here, and it's just a lot of plastic. Now granted, they anchored it in there with a metal rod, and there's another metal rod for the guide, but most of it is plastic. and I'm pretty tough on gear, so I don't know how long this little plastic piece is going to last. Now with that said, I've only had it a month and it still looks brand new. And you can always extend the life of your reels by putting covers on them and treating them a lot better than I do. But my job is to test them and really put them through the ringer so that I can provide honest reviews. And that brings me to my last point. Who the heck is this for? I've already answered that question. It's for beginners. It's for somebody looking to learn how to cast a baitcaster. That beginner to intermediate range. I found it helpful at times when I'm not paying attention and I cast too hard and I hear that anti-backlashing system kick in, and it's saved me a little bit of heartache. But most of the time I'm pretty good with a baitcaster. So for somebody who's more of an intermediate to an advanced angler, if you already know how to cast a baitcaster, it's time to keep on looking. This definitely isn't the reel for you. But if you're a beginner looking to learn how to cast a baitcaster, there's a link down in the description below where you can actually purchase this, and we get a small commission from that at no extra cost to you. And that just helps us bring more honest gear reviews like this one to YouTube. But if it's not for you, I've got a whole slew of other videos reviewing rods and reels in the playlist down below me, and I can't wait to see you there.